if I had to look at things now, I'd probably want to work in an NGO with a community giving back. That would be, I guess, so fulfilling at this point in time in terms of giving back and paying forward.
Like you said, there has to be some compromise as well. But again, I think if you can map out your journey well, it should not be a problem.
We go to, I guess, lines. And then on the study side of things, you do have to have a system.
Hello, you're watching CIO News. I'm Simran Shivalkar, a journalist at CIO News and your host for today. This session is being recorded and will be available on our website cionews.co.in, on our YouTube channel and our LinkedIn handle as well. Today we are back with yet another episode from our exclusive series for Voice of CIO. Today we are honored to have Ms. Yosheen Padayachee. She's the Group Information Technology Director at Tsebo Solutions Group. With over 24 years of experience in this field in IT digital transformation, Yosheen holds a Master of Technology and Innovation, a BCom Informatics degree and a PMP certification. She's currently pursuing a doctorate in Technology and Innovation. She has successfully led complex IT projects across various industries, leveraging technology to create value, enhance customer experience, and drive business growth. We are excited to have her insights and her journey, to know more about her journey in this episode. So, Yosheen, thank you once again for agreeing to do this with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really a pleasure to be here.
Fantastic. And with that, I would like to begin with my first question. A remarkable experience of more than 2 decades now. Can you share a bit about your journey, how you began in the IT industries? You've arrived at your current role, in group as a Group Information Technology Director.
Yeah, so Simran, it's quite a weird story because technology was not my first choice back then. I started studying a BSc bioscience degree at the University of Natal. And behold, I ran out of money and had to take a gap year. And when I did that, I landed an entry-level position, which was a contract position on a service desk at one of the huge banks, the top 4 banks in South Africa. And while I was there, it was quite a boring job to just answer calls and send people out to fix stuff. But I was surrounded by wonderful techie people that were busy bees running around. And I asked if they could, take me under their wing and show me the ropes a little. And I think that's where the journey started. From the help desk or service desk consultant, I moved on to being a QA tester and then a system analyst, head of system analysts. Moved into a project management role, eventually landed the head of project management, and then various senior management level roles in financial services like risk and governance, quality assurance, etc. And then I got an opportunity to work in Africa, or the rest of Africa. The rest of Africa, when I joined Momentum Metropolitan, they're a financial services insurance company, and I took care of excluding South Africa. A wonderful experience. So that was like a 3-year journey. Lots of traveling. Moved to Tsebo Solutions Group. The Tsebo Solutions Group move was quite, unplanned and unexpected. So firstly, I was approached to interview for the position. Being a financial services baby and growing my career in that particular industry, I was very, nervous to move industries. And thank God for a good husband. He said, just grab the opportunity, and if it doesn't work, you can always go back to financial services. And the industry that I'm in is so fantastic right now. So there is life after financial services, but it's a different flavor. which I'm enjoying thoroughly. So basically, that's my journey. But obviously, in terms of the journey, I started a bit differently, where I had no qualifications at the bottom. So I did it a little bit, a different way in the beginning, where I had a lot of experience and then, gathered the certifications and eventually, yes, very, very proud of finishing the MBA and the master's. And yeah, now almost ready to do field work from a PhD perspective.
Very well, and thank you so much for...
That's the journey.
Great, and thank you so much for walking us through your journey and being so candid about it. On the same lines, as you said, you never saw yourself being currently doing what you're doing. If not for tech, what else do you think you would be currently doing?
Oh, so now that I know more than I knew when I started my BSc bioscience degree, my passion there, I wanted to be a biochemist and I guess save the world from strange viruses. But if I had to look at things now, I'd probably want to work in an NGO with a community giving back. That would be, I guess, so fulfilling at this point in time in terms of giving back and paying forward. So that's where I see myself. If it wasn't for technology, I would have eventually found my way there.
Awesome. And I'm sure you would be leading the way there as well. But again, coming back to your remarkable experience and having a solid background, because you've been here more than 2 decades now, so I'm sure you've witnessed significant changes when we talk about IT landscape. How these changes, how have they influenced your approach when it comes to creating an IT strategy and when it comes to creating a perspective about innovation?
So yes, over the 2 decades, it's been a real remarkable journey in seeing how technology and technology adoption has, I guess, changed along the way. In terms of that, also very rapidly. So keeping abreast with the rapid changes was one of the key things that I needed to do to understand how to appropriately put out strategies, innovation opportunities and plans for the areas that I worked in. But I think from an innovation perspective, the first thing I need to say is the retail bank that I worked for. Innovation was at the forefront in terms of it was in your blood. So it wasn't something like an afterthought. And everyone was responsible for innovation. And, sometimes there were things that I guess me and the team did that we thought was part of our normal jobs. But when we decided to apply to the innovation competition that was run at that organization across the group, we were winners in our categories for about 11 long years, consecutive years, which was also really fulfilling. But in terms of emerging technology, it all depends on, from a roadmap perspective, the readiness of your users and your organization. So from a financial services perspective, it wasn't very difficult to follow the bleeding edge technology, because the maturity in terms of accepting that maturity was really, really, there, good. It was definitely a competitive, advantage to do that. Getting into the services business and with the workplace management perspective, I think the 1st of June would be 3 years that I've been at Tsebo. And when I got there were lots of things that were very manual. So the technology landscape was really, really small in terms of the digital adoption. And now I'm glad to say that, we've done a cloud-first strategy. We've got 99% of our workloads on cloud. We work with IoT. We work with drones. technology. We work with virtual reality and augmented reality. And I guess the new buzz one for us is the generative AI, which we've rolled out to a small portion of our workforce. And, the idea there is not that, the emerging technology is going to replace the human element or the human resource. It's more about augmenting, the human with the technology and making sure that we bring in efficiencies and that the human resource can work on more, complex and tasks that involve cognitive abilities and decision-making abilities that are beyond what we can put in as rules from an AI perspective. The only I guess stumbling block that we face right now, we are a high volume from a transaction perspective, but the margins in terms of profits are really low. So we are riding the wave, and we are hoping that the commercial model becomes more palatable. And we will be hoping to roll out this piece of technology, or this piece of the emerging technology to the rest of the organization. So come September, fingers crossed, new pricing comes out. Let's hope we can touch the lives and improve the lives of more of our users.
Absolutely, I cannot agree anymore. And thank you so much, Yosheen, for giving us a very comprehensive view, and sharing your insights on that. Again, because you're majorly involved in technology acquisition, implementation, and infrastructure management, are there any key challenges that you've encountered?
Sure. We need a longer slot than this for key challenges. I think through my 25 years, or almost 25 years in technology, I have a lot of battle scars and more stories to tell you, but I'm going to concentrate on the more recent ones. I think affordability of emerging technologies in Africa, is a huge issue. But beside affordability, some of the challenges that we have faced is change management and acceptance of change from a people transformation perspective. And that is the most important thing. You can have the greatest solution out there, but if your people don't adopt it and they don't use it and they don't get the benefit, then you have failed. So those are one of the key things. And also, I guess, from a Tsebo perspective, we are a Pan-African country. We are in probably plus minus 26 countries across the continent. And there are different nuances of challenges that we face per country. So, the old story would always be, Africa's the poor cousin when you have a hub in South Africa. But that's not the case, because one size doesn't fit all. And you do have to be very, very aware of the local and regional needs in order for those, the solutions that you put down to be adopted. So, I think regulatory and legislative are the obvious ones. But, when you're selecting technologies, you also have to think about, currency, languages, those type of things. From an infrastructure perspective, I think over the years, it's gotten a lot easier to put in infrastructure, particularly with cloud, with less problems and less issues. So some of the issues around infrastructure was, how do you get it to your countries? What are the rules from an export-import perspective? Sometimes it sits at the airport without being released, etc. And you've got tight deadlines that you've made and promises that you made. So those were some of the challenges. And also, I think one of the key challenges that I found, particularly around solution delivery and adopting the solution design, is that sometimes your user is not able to articulate their requirements, in terms of what their particular need is. And it's only when they see it. So you can have mock-ups, you can have a mature, analysis and design process, but when they see it in operations, that's a key thing. So that's one of the things that's quite exciting that we're working on now. So from a sales perspective, we've done, replaced an ERP, financial ERP. And, your consultants that come in always say, go vanilla, so it's easy from an upgrade part perspective. But because Tsebo is such a unique group in terms of the verticals that they have, it might be, for example, billing to a client in all the divisions, but there's a slight nuance that's a bit different, in one of those verticals. So those are some of the challenges. But if I have to wrap up, your human resource challenges are the most important. So don't underestimate change management. Those are some of the challenges. Yeah.
Absolutely, and thank you so much for simplifying this, for simplifying the challenges and making me understand, exactly it goes into when you talk about acquisition and technology management and the complexities that you have encountered. Again, pursuing, you're currently at a leadership position. You're also pursuing your doctorate in technology and innovation, which is a very significant commitment. I would like to understand and hear it from you. How do you balance these two, roles, your professional responsibilities? How do you find the balance?
So I think, firstly, I need to say that I guess from a culture and influence from my parents and my grandparents' perspective, they always said that knowledge is power. Okay, and those are the things that have driven me from I guess a self-betterment perspective in terms of studying. So that's always the thing. And they always say with my parents, because they're still alive, and my grandparents are late, but they always used to say that the greatest gift that we can give you is education. Okay. So I guess that's ingrained in me. That's the first thing. The second thing is that in terms of, having a stressful job and trying to balance, studying, family, etc. Ever since I finished high school and went into tertiary education, I have studied every single year. So actually yesterday, I realized when talking to one of my managers that it's been 30 years since I finished high school. Wow, that's a major thing. So for the last 30 years, I've done something, in terms of that. So trying to balance things and, steal from Paul to give Peter, I've kind of come up with a recipe. But I guess with the PhD, in terms of taxing and being taxing, I recently was surprised with a baby. And he's 10 months old. I have 4 sons now. The one that's 21, 17, 16, and then this miracle that landed here 10 months ago. And I guess in terms of balancing it, it's thankful that he has older siblings that are able to help. But most of the time I do my studying and my work at night. So I sometimes sacrifice sleep, but then my name may not be so great. But I try not to miss, family moments, because that's one thing I realized early in my career. When I was trying to get up there, I sacrificed, some of that family time. And now that you're older, you realize just you can never get that back. So I do it. Don't ask me how, but I think by the grace of God, learned some kind of art to do the balance. It's never easy. You have your moments where, you're so demotivated. You don't work on it for a week or 2, but it's always good to have, great people around you that encourage you and that know what you're doing. So firstly, my husband is one of those key pillars, because if he sees me slacking and not doing any work at night, he'll like, what's happening to your PhD? And then at work with my senior managers, we talk a lot, and then they're like, oh yeah, so you said your first draft needs to go out. How's that going? So it does help to keep the pressure on and keep you motivated. Yeah. So that's my spiel. There isn't a true science. You just got to make it work for you and understand what opportunity costs you're willing to accept. And for me, I think balancing family work and studying, family comes first.
Fantastic, and I can certainly agree on that. In fact, we all can take some inspiration from, when it comes to balancing, whether it's in tech or I believe any other domain. We just need to know, how to balance our priorities, and like you said, there has to be some compromise as well. But again, I think if you can map out your journey well, it should not be a problem.
Yes, exactly, 100%.
Again, and
would you like me to give you? Would you like me to give you?
I would love to hear it from you.
On the journey in terms of how I do this, or yes, okay.
What a typical day looks like for you, if you could give a glimpse.
A typical day. So a typical day is, I guess, early morning, getting lunches ready for the boys and my hubby and sending them off to work, then making sure that I give baby a feed, and then get into my car, get to the office. And from an office perspective, I've got quite a mature system in terms of how I keep abreast with what I need to. So there's regular check-ins with my managers, also regular check-ins with senior stakeholders and executives in terms of key deliverables, and also trying to understand what's going on in their world. And also trying to be proactive, so when there's smoke, before it becomes a huge fire, you're able to deal with it. One of the other things, I guess, that makes the work journey a lot better is that you need to hire the right people. And it's not necessarily skill, but it's also attitude. So I would rather hire for attitude versus, skill can be taught, and you have some talented people out there, and then also you cannot be the cleverest person in the room. I mean, I know everyone says that, it's very cliche, but it's true. Take your lead, know enough to hold the discussion, but trust your people, to help and support them and empower them. So that gives me a lot of flexibility, particularly with managing upwards. Currently, and in my previous role, I reported into the CEO, and it's also managing their expectation and understanding what's important for them, and through that, from a work perspective, I guess I'm old school, and that this is what my guys say. We do have an electronic Kanban board, but I insist that in my office, if you visit me, there's a board with Post-its on the important things that I want to keep track of. So I get teased about that a lot, and they say it gives away my age, but that's one of my systems that works really well for me at work. And then from a home perspective, I have a wonderful support system. So my parents live with me and my family, and I had to get a full-time nanny now. So in terms of that and making sure that you have that support system, my sisters are close by, and we support each other, and they're also really, really successful career women. So I think it's very important. And some people may not have a close-knit family to give them that support system, but I think you do have to find someone that you can lean on when things fall apart. And, if you call them, they drop everything and they're there. So I've got a lot of people like that, and I'm very thankful and grateful for that. So, if you ask me about Gratitude Fridays, we have a radio show here in SA, and you need to call in and say what you're grateful for. I never ever call in because I'm driving in the car, But I always say I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for God. Those are my two first go-to. We go to, I guess, lines. And then on the study side of things, you do have to have a system. So now that I'm doing a PhD, I have my deadlines and my dates in my calendar. But when I was doing, I guess, the postgraduates and I guess the professional qualifications, there were lots of lectures and assignments and those type of things that you needed to balance. So I got a year planner and I put those in so that it could be like in my face. So I know, okay, you have this lovely birthday party to go to and you have assignment due. How do you do that? And try and balance that. And then also doing most of my reading and my work at night. So that's my recipe. And I'm also the type of person that can go up very well under pressure. So in my early days, it was just in time. But now I am way better at managing it. Yeah, so that's my journey, and that's how I do it.
Wonderful, and thank you so much, Yosheen, to share with us the glimpse of your life, and sharing with us, being so open. And like you also said, you have to create that support system for you. You need to find someone to lean on. I think this is something we all need to learn, and eventually, I think that is how we can grow, especially when we talk about women in the tech space or women in leadership role.
Yes, great. I agree 100%.
Yes, and along the lines, because you've spoken about your journey right from where you started, and also about balancing these roles. We commonly hear a dialogue about women taking a back seat, especially when you climb up the corporate ladder, being in the tech space. Have you ever encountered any such scenarios where you had to take a back seat or you had to take a call?
I don't think my personality would allow me to do that, okay? But I have worked with, I guess, when I started in tech and the way I started at the bottom, there was a lot of I guess, barriers and obstacles for women to be successful in the domain. So I recall I got a new manager once, and pretty soon into my career, probably was like 19 or 20 at that time, and he called me in and he wanted to understand, me, what makes me tick. And so one of his direct questions were, so what do you want to be, a mother or have a career? And I actually thank him for that question, because I think that's what lit the fire. So my answer was, I'm going to do both. And I think I have done both. It makes me feel very good. But I have coached and I've seen women that want to take the back seat a lot. So for example, I've worked with some wonderful young Black developers in South Africa, so coding developers, and in the roles that I've been, I was able to either move them from a developer to a system analyst, to a project manager, to a scrum master, etc. And there was one particular lady that wanted to move, and totally talented, way more I guess intelligent than her male counterparts, that wanted to leave that particular role to go into a BA or project management role. And at that time I asked why, because I said, do you understand that you are gold in an IT environment? We have so few in South Africa, senior developers that were women at that time. And the thing was that at that time she said, well, she's also got the career aspiration, she's got the home aspiration, and culturally in SA we have many, we're very diverse. There's lots of cultures there, But bottom line is the commonality around women, amongst women, is that you have to take care of your family when you get home, and you have to switch from the the corporate world to the loving mother, wife, etc. So those were things that were real pressure, and so that was one thing that lit the fire for me in terms of how do we do women's advocacy? Do we have policies at work to support this? To support women. So can I leave early to fetch my kids? How flexible we are. And also there's little things, in terms of, running finances, understanding how you save, for rainy seasons or an unforeseen event, or divorce. Most people stay unhappy because as a woman you have a joint account. So those are some of the experts that we got in to start a woman in tech type of motion. And then from a momentum perspective, when I got there, I helped start Women in Tech type of forum that still continues, where you get women that have exposure in tech, not necessarily from the organization but across the board, to come through and inspire women and men. And one of the other things is to make sure that they're inclusive. So it's not a woman thing. It's not women against men. It's how do we all get together to make sure that there's a functional family at work. So my ethos back then was, I'm going to say it like it is, and if they fire me, they fire me. Right? Pretty brave, but obviously at the back of my mind, I'm thinking, gee whiz, I have bills to pay, so please fire me. But yes, so you got to speak your mind. I think in terms of that, we're taking the back seat. You also have to be true to your value system. So never ever compromise that, and always be authentic. But as you know, Simran, that in a corporate environment, you don't always win the battle. So sometimes you do have to accept the fact that you've said your say, and unfortunately it didn't go your way, and be mature enough to move on. So I've had many of those experiences, but I think I'm happy that I shared my view and I wasn't quiet and just tagged along. So I guess that's the advice. So sometimes you win some, you lose some, you gotta pick your battles, and sometimes it's above your pay grade. You gotta accept it.
Rightly
so
said.
That's me in terms of that.
Yes, and rightly said so, because I think a lot of times culture plays an important role, a significant role rather, shaping up our perspectives, when it comes to balancing work and, balancing our personal life. Also, as you said, it also, the onus is on organizations itself. What are we doing as a company to support for women who have the potential, to be at the leadership position? So I think it goes both the ways. And thank you once again, Yosheen, for putting up your, invaluable insights. Lastly, I would like to understand, and I would like to hear it from you. Any final words of advice or best practices that you would like to share with young women who look forward to making their mark in this space?
Okay, so I say the one thing is be present in terms of what you do. The second thing is, I'm going to repeat it, be authentic. Okay. The third thing is knowledge is power. And the fourth thing is that never be afraid. So I think those are the four things that drive me every day, that gives me the energy, that gives me the passion. And when you're true to yourself and you have good values and you're ethical and you get up in the morning and say, I want to be a mom, I want to be a leader, I want to be a developer, I think it's the attitude thing that I spoke about earlier. That's what it's about. So I guess that's what I'll leave you with. But the last thing is, I think from a knowledge is power perspective, the the landscape changes so rapidly. And sometimes we tend to get lazy. I'm talking about across the board, including, I guess, my male managers. You tend to get a bit lazy because life is so hectic. So when do you upskill and when do you get onto LinkedIn or get onto Udemy or get onto Coursera and understand prompts for generative AI, for example? And I think that you need to do when you're in the moment. That's number one. So for me, in terms of some best practices around staying current and staying abreast of what's happening is, you will see if you look at my profile, there's a lot of stuff I do in Jan in terms of upskilling. So I make a list. And then if there's new things that are coming in and new things that we want to explore, I also make sure I do my research around that. So that when you get the experts that come in, you have the relevant questions and you're not totally blind in terms of making those right decisions. And then also, depending on your company, the risk appetite for you to get it wrong, that you need to figure out. And I'm thankful to my retail bank because they had a very high tolerance in terms of risk appetite from an innovation perspective. I think other companies that I worked for had less of an appetite. But making those decisions that are informed decisions, and also convincing your executive committee and your board, it's your responsibility as a leader. As much as they want certain things, you've got to go and put your personal stamp on it and do your homework. So I think that's what I want to leave with the guys. And the last thing is, don't ever try to be the man in a man's world. Be the woman in the corporate world. And I truly believe that this is what I live by. That in the boardroom, I can pack the punches, but I still believe in chivalry. And also, when I come home, I am a wife and I am a mother, and that's who I am. So I guess those are some key things that you have to work on in terms of corporate versus personal. Thank you, Simran. That's it from me.
Thank you so much, Yosheen, because I just love the way you said, do not be a man in a man's world. I mean, we all cannot agree to that anymore, because I think we all should, women especially, we need to embrace our individuality rather than, going above and beyond and trying to prove something, especially when it's not, needed all the time. But thank you so much for drawing experience, insights from your own experiences. I am so happy that you agreed to do this with us, and it has been a wonderful session, a great inspiration, and I'm sure our viewers and listeners have a lot to take away from this episode. So thank you so much once again, and I personally look forward to connect again with you and having more such conversations.
Definitely. Thanks, Simran, and thanks for the time and the slot. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Bye.
And with that, we would be concluding this session.